We've all got issues, so let's talk about them. I'm your host, Juan Ayala, and this is Actors with Issues. Hello, ladies, gents, and non-binary friends. Welcome back to another episode of Actors with Issues, bringing you another quick and casual chat with folks from TV, film, and Broadway. I'm your host, Juan Ayala, and joining us today is a rising young actor you've seen in Henry Danger, Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, A Raven's Home, and he has two upcoming films, Unstoppable, where he works alongside Jerome Jerome and Jennifer Lopez in theaters December 6th, and the long-awaited sequel, Freakier Friday, with Jamie Lee Curtis and Lindsay Lohan in theaters August 8th, 2025. It's too long, but we will wait. We'll be patient. Please welcome Noen Perez. Noen, thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So I'm curious, growing up, were there any particular actors that whose careers you saw that you sort of modeled your own, that you saw what they were doing, and you're like, that's what I want to do?
Ooh, well, I always was a big fan of Jack Dylan Grazer.
Mm,
He was in the movies,
yeah.
and I got a chance to work with him on Me, Myself, and I. And I just really admired his work, and I was like, dang, this guy is really successful. Like, he just got on set. He was so charismatic. Everyone was like, yeah, that's the guy. And I was like, yeah, I want to be something like similar to that.
Mm. And before that, was there a particular moment that made you want to become an actor, a particular performance, or was that sort of sense of creativity always just in you as a kid?
Well, as a kid, I was always like a little goofball, a little ham. I would set up like plays and stuff with my cousins, and we
Yeah.
do shows for like my aunts and my mom. And but actually, I come from Florida, Fort Myers, Florida, and musical theater is like very big over there.
Mhm.
So when I was like 7 or 8, I entered like my first musical theater show, and I just fell in love with it there. Uh, I did like the whole singing thing. Wasn't really for me. My voice isn't the best, but I really stuck with the acting part. And ever since then, it's just been a part of me. And once I got a chance to come out here, I took it.
Yeah. And do you see Broadway on the horizon at some point? Maybe not a musical, but maybe a play or anything out there on stage again?
Maybe, I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, can't forget my roots.
Yeah.
So maybe if I get the opportunity.
Yeah. And fast forwarding to today, or technically yesterday, the trailer just dropped for Unstoppable. I'm not sure if you've had the chance to see it, but how are you feeling? It's gotten a lot of buzz already since it premiered at TIFF back in September. So, what's going through your head?
It's incredible. I saw it twice already.
Mm,
Uh, I saw it the other time Friday, and it was like a Q&A with Jennifer, Jarrell, Don Cheadle. It was just amazing seeing them again for a while. And yeah, it's just really hype. Like that movie is incredible. It just makes you feel like all these different types of emotions, and yeah.
yeah, those inspirational like sports dramas have been like a tent pole since like the 80s. I feel like you have movies like
Yeah.
Rudy and things like
Uh-huh.
that, and coming up. Oh, dang, of course now I'm blanking on like all these other ones that we like grew up watching. Like Remember the
Like
Titans
Rocky.
and Varsity
Yeah.
Blues and all of that. Like there are all these different, movies and shows and whatnot. But like uh is there a particular one that maybe sticks out to you that you really liked growing up? Sort of a sports drama or a sports show?
Yeah, I liked what was it, McFarland about the high school track stars, the
I
Hispanic
don't know.
team.
Though. Oh,
You haven't heard of that one?
no.
That one was really good. I watched that in my Spanish class my freshman year, and I just remember it really stuck with me.
Yeah.
And what's cool about Unstoppable too is the main character Anthony Robles, who is based on a real story.
Mm.
He loved Rocky growing up, and in one of the championships, it's in Philly, and he goes to the Rocky steps, and it's a really cool scene.
Yeah. I saw that. I think that they showed a bit of him like standing on the steps in the trailer.
Yeah, yeah, and he
Um,
puts his crutches right in the right foot spot, which
yeah.
is dope.
As you mentioned, this incredible cast is attached to the movie. Gerald Jerome, Jennifer Lopez, Bobby Cannavale, Don Cheadle, and during production, sadly, was when the strike happened. So you guys had to like stop a couple weeks in. During that time period in between, how did you keep yourself creative and busy? Like, how did you spend that downtime? Were you going a little crazy, like not COVID 2.0, but
Well, yeah, I spent a lot of time with family, and with my family, like I said, I was a goofball. We would
Mm,
set up like little plays and stuff, and I have nieces and nephews, so I help them. Like I'm like the director, and I direct them for like little like mini movies. I made one with my niece and nephew called The 9-Year-Old Spy. That was a really fun one to do, and yeah, I just like to mess around with my friends. Me and my friends like to make like TikTok videos and stuff, so
yeah.
keeping the juices flowing like that.
Yeah. And speaking of, with social media, I'm curious as a younger actor, have you felt a particular pressure to sort of keep up with social media? Like, is it something you love to do? Like, do you love embracing that, or are you just like you wish that you didn't have to?
Well, for me, I'm like transitioning because you can't face the facts. That's the way the direction is going.
Yeah.
So I was a little hesitant at first. I was like, oh, I don't want to be one of those guys, like, hey, all in your face. But
Yeah.
I found that there's so many different ways that you could really implement social media with like your career, and you don't have to be like all up in your face about it. You could like make cool things. You could just, I don't know, do what you like and not be like fake or whatever behind it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was hesitant at first, but decided to give in. My buddy who I did a movie with, Natty Knox, he was the main character with me.
Yeah.
Thomas, shout out Thomas. I've been filming a lot of skits with him. We've been going to like the Glendale Galleria, just interviewing people, stuff like that.
And speaking of Danny Knox, great segue. Look at that. Do you have my notes on your screen? Can you see them?
You read
So you
through.
got to work with some, I mean, you've working with some legends on Unstoppable and with and Freaky Friday are coming up. Freaky Friday, Freakier Friday. Did I say that right? Anyway, with Natty Knox, this horror film that you did last year, you worked with Robert Englund, as many people know as Freddy Krueger, and Danielle Harris. I'm a huge Halloween fan, so I love Danielle. What was that experience like? Was that did you film that during the strike since it was independent, or was it prior?
No, this was way before the strike.
Way
This was
before.
like, I want to say a year and a half after COVID, like the original thing.
Yeah.
This is back in 2021. No, 2022.
Mm.
My fault. But yeah, it was incredible. Honestly, that was like my first actual movie I've ever like worked on before. So it was a really big change because as a kid, I did a lot of commercials, a lot of like guest stars in Disney.
Yeah.
Never really worked on a film like that before. So it was a different change, but it was incredible. I We shot up in Fillmore, and we also shot in San Pedro, and it was just cool seeing because I've never been to those places before.
Yeah.
It was cool being there and then working with these people. Incredible. I mean, for one of the scenes, I had to do like a really like I got scared and I had to do like one of those like horror screams and I had a hard time. And I remember Bill Mosley, he taught me. He's like, when you scream, you don't want to let it all out at first. You got to like work your way up like an ambulance. So you start off low and then you
Yeah.
scream like at the top of your lungs and then back down because
Yeah.
then you're just gonna blow out your voice with like all the ticks that you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I always commend act, and I'm sure that our listeners have heard me say this 100 times, but I always commend actors who do things in the horror genre because to me that's like the most exhausting thing ever, having to keep those emotions and that fear running high
yeah,
take after take, especially when sometimes there's nothing there. Like for the turnaround to
yeah,
get your coverage, like there's not always, the the monster's still getting their makeup on, but your time is money, so they're getting your reactions before they're even on set. So um yeah, and is horror something that you want to explore a bit more of, especially now I feel like there's so much horror content with, massive studios like, Neon and A24 and Blumhouse.
yeah.
You know, is that something you want to explore
Oh,
more of?
100%. I mean, those are the movies that really connect with me. Well, not connect because I'm not like a murderer or anything, but they're the ones that really leave me like, what the heck did I just watch? In a good
Yeah.
way, like really, I like the ones that leave you like shocked and like suspense and thriller. And I like Natty Knox because it kind of had like that old, like Stranger Things type of vibe to it, with all the kids and everything. And yeah, I just like movies like that.
Hmm. What's the last horror movie you saw that sort of gave you that feeling of like pure
Ooh.
shock? Anything? For me,
I
it
don't know
was
if
The
this is like,
Substance. I don't know if you've seen that, but that movie, by the end of it, I was like, what the hell did I just watch? Like, it was such an interesting movie. It was really, really well done. But yeah, that was for sure one that I was just like,
what the
what
heck?
did we all just experience together in this theater?
Yeah. The last movie I actually just watched it 3 days ago. It was Midsummer. I know it's been around for a
Yeah.
while, but I haven't seen it. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a try. I've heard things about it. And boy, what the heck was that? I don't know if you've seen it, but
What from what I've heard of like that movie and Hereditary, I haven't seen Hereditary either. I don't think I can bring myself to watch this movie. I love like slasher movies, but those ones that like mess with your the human psyche, I'm like, I don't know if I can watch this. I don't
yeah.
know if I'll enjoy watching this.
I've seen
But
Hereditary twice. Love it. showed my friends that, and he was like, "Why'd you show me that, dude? I'm gonna tell my parents about this." I was like, "Oh, I'm just trying to spread awareness."
Yeah. And moving on to, like as the name of our show is Actors with Issues, there's lots of problems and sort of career obstacles and things that our guests have talked about. So, what comes to mind as something that you have dealt with that you can shed some light on? I know we talked about procrastination before we started chatting. So, what can you share about that?
Yeah, I was an actor since I was doing like film and television since I was like 10, moved out here. So in middle school, I was doing that in high school and now. But once I got in high school, I kind of got a little bit distracted. I started like caring more about going out with my friends, all that thing. And it kind of got to the point where the auditioning process was so repetitive a little bit because it gets really repetitive. I'm sure you know. And I wasn't seeing like any like true success, you know what I mean? So I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, what am I doing? I'm still gonna like do it, but I wasn't doing it with my all, and that's what you should be doing. And so I wasn't seeing anything come out of that. And luckily, I had some talks with some people, and I kind of realized like if I don't want to do this, I could just stop right now, and I don't have to do it. You know, I don't have to deal with like this rejection. I don't have to deal with all the things that come into it. Uh, and I decided not to because this is really what I love doing. And if I have to do it, I have to put like my best foot forward and do it, like actually do it. So I'm
Yeah.
glad I overcame that.
Yeah, and since, as you mentioned, you've been acting since you were a lot younger, sort of pre-COVID, pre everything being self-tape. Are you one of the types that like loves the self-tape and is relieved that it's a thing, or do you miss being in the room?
Everybody asks you that question. It's like 50. I'm sure everybody says it like, yeah, self-tape's better because like you can redo it over again. You can get the perfect tape, blah, blah, blah. You could be at your house. And I was
That's
like,
also the
yeah,
hardest part.
exactly, yeah. And the hardest part was doing my auditions with my mom because my mom would be on my butt. She's like, "No, you didn't do it this way." Blah 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 blah. We're past that now, but yeah, I mean, I miss going in person because you get that face-to-face connection. They get to know you. Your personality really shines. It could like, yeah. But if you do it self-tape, you could do it over again, get the perfect tape. Uh, you don't have to drive. That was a big problem.
That too.
I remember I would get picked up from school and instantly go like 2 hours to Culver City from Burbank just because of traffic,
Damn.
and
Yeah.
have to go home and do homework right away, repeat it the next day. So I do appreciate that I don't have to drive everywhere now. But yeah, I just wish there was more like Zoom, maybe
Mm.
like auditions. I know they do like an option you could do that, but I'm sure that's like extra for people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
There've been a few that I've done that were like, Echo Cast live or
yeah.
and those are fun because it's basically like you're in the room because you're still getting that like feedback and they can give you a redirect and do it again instead of you send it in and hope for the best.
Yeah.
What I don't miss is going. I live in New York, so
Oh,
it's never a 2 hour commute to get to an audition, thankfully. Like it is for you guys out in LA, but what I definitely don't miss is having to go into Manhattan for like a two-line audition and then, that's like, well, you just
exactly.
wasted and not wasted, but you just spent an afternoon, an hour and a half, or like 40 minutes in and then you do your audition and you come back and yeah, it definitely doesn't leave a lot of room for like flexible uh
Oh yeah,
work. So thankfully
definitely.
self-tapes have really done that. Um, but sort of our $1 million question, as we call it on the show, since so many young actors ask about this online, what advice do you have for a young actor who's looking for that first agent or first manager to like help get the ball rolling on their career? Because so many young actors think that once you get an agent or manager, you're like set. In reality, as we know, that's not necessarily true.
Mhm.
There's still a lot of work you have to do as an actor. But yeah, what advice do you have for anyone like looking for that first rep?
I say just keep on practicing acting. Luckily, I went out here on a showcase, so I was automatically put in front of like agents and
Yeah.
managers, and I got to like perform in front of them, and then they get to pick like who they want. Uh, but I say just keep on looking, word of mouth. Honestly, talk to people, make connections. Like especially if you live in LA, New York, it's all about networking. So if you know people, and you really connect with them and be real. You don't have to put on like this actor act. Like just be real. Explain to them like this is what you want to do, and try to make connections and just keep practicing. Look up audition sites online. Just practice. If you're not getting auditions, just keep on practicing. You don't have to instantly go to acting classes, pay a lot of money. I mean, acting class is great, but if you can't afford that, you could learn it from home. There's YouTube. Uh, the best way to do it is just to do it.
Yeah. Especially now with ever since the pandemic, every acting studio now has online options.
Mhm.
So it's a lot easier now for actors to, study at like these very reputable places that are on either coast without having to be there. Before it was like only in person. You had to be in New York or LA to study at, Stella Adler or anything like that. But now it's like you can just hop on the Zoom class and
There
make
you
the
go.
best of that.
Yeah.
And what comes to mind as like a misconception you had about the industry when you were first starting out that you sort of uncovered as like, completely untrue?
I'd say like for me, I was always so scared of like forgetting my lines, like memorizing. Uh, but you just got to be in the right mindset. You can't have like any distractions. So if your mind is clear and you're really like locked in, you're not gonna forget your lines. If you feel it and if you actually like studied it, it'll just come out naturally. Like I had a problem for a while is I would be thinking about my lines ahead of time during the tape, and I was thinking about it so hard that I would end up forgetting my line. I'm just so distracted on that. Just stay in the scene and it'll come out because you'll feel it.
Mhm.
You know the lines in the back of your head.
Yeah. And our last question, we always ask our guests before we go, in 10 words or less, what advice would you give to a young actor?
Say keep on going. I mean, don't stop even if like you get rejected. I mean, I've been rejected so many times. I've been so close to things that are going to change my life, but I know that I could do it. I know myself. I have people surrounding me telling me that I could do it. Even if you don't have those people, all you need is yourself at the end of the day. And if you believe in yourself, this is way more than 10 words.
All right. It's all hyphenated. It's just,
Yeah. Just keep pushing. If you believe in yourself, keep
yeah.
on doing it.
Yeah. If you look at the numbers for like any given actor, 95% of what they audition for, they don't book. It's
Yeah.
just, it's the hard but common truth. And yeah, the sooner you sort of come to realize that, especially as you're coming up and feeling sort of like down on your luck because you're not, booking what you want. And like you said, I feel like a lot of actors have auditioned for things that absolutely could have shaped their career in a different direction. I was fortunate enough to audition for some stuff that, I'm sure there's an NDA still active, so you can like never talk about it. But,
Yeah.
it's like, oh dang, that would have actually been like an amazing role to have or whatever. And you see who got it and you're like, well, yeah, they look amazing in that role. Like it's also important to remember that it's like, there's way more factors going into why you book, why you didn't book, besides talent. There's so many different factors. Um, but yeah, Noen, thank you so much for joining us today, and congratulations on all of your successes. I can't wait to see what's next for you. Again, folks, as we said, Unstoppable in theaters December 4th, and Freakier Fridays out next year. Keep an eye out for more. And before we go, if anyone wants to give you a follow on social, speaking of followers and all that stuff, where can they find
Yeah.
you?
Noen.Perez. My name, just a dot in between. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Noen, thank you again, and yeah, thanks for joining us.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, take care, bud. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to Actors with Issues on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and visit our YouTube channel for full video interviews. Actors with Issues is executive produced and hosted by Juan Ayala. See you next time.